Isaac, seeing as God really loves him and God is blessing him, is one of my favorite people too. He lies, but I mean, there's a good reason, because he's a coward, and that doesn't bother God, and that doesn't bother me. Hi guys, welcome to Joel Reads Bible. I'm Joel, and I'm here just reading my Bible. I'm reading the Bible from the beginning to the end, and I'm making an episode per chapter, kind of figure out what this book actually says. When I was in the church and raised Christian, I was taught a lot of concepts, and we'll see if they're actually in the Bible. That's what we're looking at. Now, I've been a little bit critical. I've made jokes. I've been trying to be a little silly and entertaining, and I don't know if that's been appreciated. But in this episode, I'm going to try to be very just pro-God in whatever he does. To be perfectly honest, I do not know what Genesis chapter 6 is all about. So this isn't sort of a planned thing. I just thought it'd be fun and maybe be a little bit uplifting instead of all the negativity that I've been spreading. So please subscribe, by the way, if you like listening to someone read the Bible and make little comments and remarks about what he is reading, because that's just basically what this channel is. So here we are with Genesis 26. Now there was a famine in the land, besides the earlier famine of Abraham's time. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gerar. The Lord appeared to Isaac. So he went to him, and then the Lord appeared. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you, and I will bless you. For to you and your descendants I will give all these lands, and I will confirm the oath I swore to your father Abraham." This has been repeated over and over again. We know that God is going to give the land of Abimelech, which I believe is Canaan, over to Abraham's descendants, which are the Hebrews. And what a beautiful thing that is, that the Lord God of the creator of the earth, the one true God, all these different titles, will actually be giving Isaac and the descendants of Abraham this land. What a blessing to be promised that. It's not so great for the Canaanites and the Philistines. It's not so great for them. But what a blessing it is to Abraham and his family. I love that for them. As an aside, I would like to say that, this is the second famine we've had listed here. I wish there was like a reason for the famine. I wish God was like, I will send a famine, the way he sent the flood. I will send a famine to these people or to this land. But for all we know, these famines might just be naturally occurring. We cannot hold God responsible for famines. We can't hold God responsible for all natural disasters in nature and everything like that. But once in a while, he does have to do some of that stuff. Sometimes he has to cause a famine. Sometimes he has to cause a worldwide flood. Those are things that God does have to do. But in this case, we can't blame him. You want to blame God for a famine? You can't. He's not always responsible. Sometimes it's just happenstance. Some people are just going to want to blame God for everything, and it's just because he's all-powerful. You think that he can take all responsibility, but that's just does not follow. "I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and will give you all these lands, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed me, and kept my requirements, my commands, my decrees, and my laws. So Isaac stayed in Gerar." So Isaac's obeying God, so he's following suit with his dad. Genesis chapter 26 is the first time that God says why he likes Abraham so much. I don't know if this is a why, because I think that he loved Abraham. I don't think Abraham could have done any wrong. But he also believes that Abraham obeyed him, kept his requirements. What are your requirements, God? Are you going to tell us those requirements later in the book? I hope so. My commands, my decrees, and my laws. Are your laws the 10 commandments? Because what I want to do is I want to call Abraham a liar again. Maybe there are no requirements to being a good dad or to, not sending your illegitimate son to die in the desert. Maybe that's not something that falls under any decrees or laws. I love Abraham. I think he's a wonderful person in this chapter because he really was faithful to God in a sense. This is brilliant. When the men of that place asked him about his wife, this is Isaac now, he said, "She is my sister," because he was afraid to say, "She is my wife." He thought the men of this place might kill me on account of Rebekah because she is beautiful. These guys get the most beautiful women, and they are cowards. If this is fiction, guys, be more creative. Not every episode can you have a guy lying about his beautiful wife and calling her his sister. But in this case, Rebekah is not his sister. She's his second cousin twice removed or something like that. So he is definitely lying, which again, Isaac, are you in keeping with God's laws? One of them is thou shalt not lie. It hasn't been spoken yet. I want to be very clear as to why I'm saying that thou shalt not lie is a current moral standard. Because Christians will say God doesn't change, and therefore his law is his law from the beginning of all time. Lying is always wrong. Unless it's, to save your bacon. That lie, well, we don't know if it's okay. With Abraham, it seemed like it was fine. She was a half-sister. It gets complicated, because maybe with Isaac, it is wrong. We'll see what happens. When Isaac had been there a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked down from a window and saw Isaac caressing his wife Rebekah. These people live very, very close to each other. It's hard to believe that entirely just because Isaac is super rich. He's like a prince. He got all of Abraham's stuff. Abraham had many slaves, many livestock. He's really filthy rich. And so why on earth is Isaac so close to Abimelech's place that Abimelech looks out and is like, what? Abimelech's a king, so I'm assuming that he's near a palace or something like that. Unless they're still all in tents. I don't know if they've built anything at this point. There are bricks, so there's no reason why they can't build something. So Abimelech summoned Isaac and said, She is really your wife. Why did you say she is my sister? Another thing that I've observed in previous chapters and seems to be consistent here is that they don't really talk about how does someone become your wife? They have a ceremony, there's a ring and blah, blah. None of that has really been spelled out here. Wife seems to simply mean you're sleeping with her. And in this case, it probably wouldn't be so crazy for someone to be a wife and a sister. But he's obviously withholding the truth, and so did Abraham. They're being called out for it, and she's being redefined as wife due to the physical thing. Isaac answered him, "Because I thought I might lose my life on account of her, on account of how beautiful she is." Then Abimelech said, "What is this you have done to us? One of the men might well have slept with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us." Everyone here is on the same page with God's great and honorable and gracious morality, which I applaud and I think is absolutely fantastic, which is that obviously don't sleep with someone else's wife. That's not written down yet, but you can infer that. That's one of the laws. The person who sleeps with the wife, knowing or unknowing, will have guilt brought upon them. They'll be in trouble. It will have been an error on their part. It feels like this is some sort of a cultural morality, but intention doesn't matter. Ignorance is no excuse. You do something wrong, even if you don't realize you're doing it wrong, and someone deceives you, someone lies to you, you're guilty. Abimelech is like, I'm worried about this. By the way, God is with Abraham. I am a big fan of Abraham. Like, I think Abimelech is one of the more faithful of the characters in this book. So Abimelech gave orders to all the people. Anyone who molests this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Abimelech is constantly protecting Abraham and now Isaac. He's a great guy. Isaac planted crops in that land, and the same year reaped 100-fold because the Lord blessed him. The man became rich. He was already rich, and his wealth continued to grow until he became very wealthy. He became rich, and then he became so wealthy, he was very wealthy. He was already super rich because he had all of Abraham's stuff. He had so many flocks and herds and servants that the Philistines envied him. So all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the time of his father Abraham, the Philistines stopped up, filling them with earth. So if you go back to Genesis chapter 21, verse 22, and read in that area, you can see where there is a treaty between Abimelech and Abraham about the wells. So now we've got the Philistines, Abimelech's people, going back on this whole well thing. They're stopping them up, they're filling them in with earth out of sheer jealousy. And I think that's wrong, because Isaac, seeing as God really loves him and God is blessing him, is one of my favorite people too. He lies, but I mean, there's a good reason, because he's a coward, and that doesn't bother God, and that doesn't bother me, and God is right to continue to bless him. The Philistines, though, no good. They're just no good. I don't know why necessarily, but just God doesn't love them as much, I suppose. Then Abimelech said to Isaac, "Move away from us. Uh-oh. You have become too powerful for us." Not a good move, Abimelech. You are playing with fire here, buddy boy. And I hate you now, too. I think Abimelech's a bad guy now because he's turned against Isaac, who's become too powerful. And Isaac is the good guy. And Abimelech, so now, is the bad guy. And no behavior is going to change that. So Isaac moved away from there and encamped in the valley of Gerar and settled there. Isaac reopened the wells that had been dug in the time of his father Abraham, which the Philistines had stopped up after Abraham died. Even more wells? And he gave them the same names his father had given them. That's nice. They name wells. I like that they name them. I think that's pretty cool. I'm glad they don't list them because I don't need to read any more names. I'm sick of reading wacky names. They're not wacky in some cultures, I'm sure, but they're hard for me to read. Isaac's servants dug in the valley and discovered a well of fresh water there. What are the other wells? But the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen. There's a lot of quarreling with herdsmen. It happens all the time. And said, "The water is ours." So he named the well Essek because they disputed with him. You're going to name something Essek over a dispute? Absolutely. Then they dug another well, but they quarreled over that one also. So he named it Sitnah. Oh, so not all quarrels result in Essek. Sometimes they're Sitnah. He moved on from there and dug another well, and no one quarreled over it, thank heavens. He named it Rehoboth, saying, "Now the Lord has given us room, and we will flourish in the land." From there he went up to Beersheba. That night the Lord appeared to him and said, "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you and will increase the number of your descendants for the sake of my servant Abraham. You're all right. Abraham's better. And I'm increasing. This is why there's going to be so many people that are like, you can't, hey, by the way, could you count the dust that's there? No? Well, you can't count that many people. That's how many people God's going to give these people. And every time he talks to them, he seems like he's increasing their numbers. And that's probably why there's going to be so many, because he keeps on like doubling down. He's like, yeah, more people, more people. Isaac built an altar there and called on the name of the Lord. There he pitched his tent, and there his servants dug a well. Meanwhile, Abimelech had come to him from Gerar with Ahuzzath, his personal advisor, and Phicol, the commander of his forces. Now, these people must be younger. Like, Abraham's dead at this point, but these characters were talking to Abraham, so they must be getting kind of long in the tooth at this point. Isaac asked them, "Why have you come to me, since you were hostile to me and sent me away?" Because when you send people away, that's hostility. You sent me away in the same way that Abraham sent his other son Ishmael away, which was hostile. They answered, "We saw clearly that the Lord was with you." You already knew that, Abimelech. So we said, "There ought to be a sworn agreement between us and you. Let us make a treaty with you that you do us no harm, just as we did not molest you, but always treated you well and sent you away in peace. And now you are blessed by the Lord." Well, it's not because of them that Isaac is blessed by the Lord. It's just because the Lord likes him best. That's why he's blessed, because he is one of the favorite people. Has nothing to do with you, Abimelech. It has nothing to do with you not molesting him. If you had touched him, I bet you any money God would have smited you. He would have smote you. These Philistines, they think they helped in some way. I'm so sick of them. Isaac then made a feast for them, and they ate and drank. Early the next morning, the men swore an oath to each other. Then Isaac sent them on their way, and they left him in peace. Now, it doesn't say it, but during that oath, I wonder if they put their hand under each other's thighs. It's sort of a very physical way to make an oath. That day, Isaac's servants came and told him about the well they had dug. They said, "We found water." He called it Sheba, and to this day, the name of the town has been Beersheba. But it was already Beersheba for ages. It's been Beersheba. It seems like it keeps on being renamed Beersheba, but whatever. Unless they keep on going different places and naming something Beersheba. But anyway, Beersheba is like the one word that they could think of. So everything's called Beersheba at this point. When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and also Basemath. Now that's a cool name. Basemath. That would be a good band name. And also Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. They were a source of grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Well, what a cliffhanger to end that one on. I don't know what's going to happen with this Esau. I wonder if we're ever going to see an episode where there are two sons and they all get along, and none of them start a line of people who are all cursed or anything like that. But then I guess if that were the case, it wouldn't make for interesting reading and wouldn't be much of a story. But boy, was God ever faithful in that and consistent and loving. And what a beautiful chapter to see his blessing and to see how Isaac is he's the next gen. I'm excited to see what happens next. So subscribe if you are excited to see what happens too. We'll be back in a couple days with another chapter/episode. Leave your comments to say how much you love God too and how great he is, how fantastic, and he's just nailing it these days. After you subscribe, ring that bell so you're notified. Like this video. I never asked to like the video, but it'd be nice if you liked it. This has been fun. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.